One of life's greatest pleasures is dining out in a restaurant on some fine food and wine with good friends and families. But if you're assigned the task of ordering wine for your table, it can be intimidating for anybody because there's so many things to consider. How much am I going to spend? Will I recognize any of the wines on the wine list? And what about the etiquette of tasting the wine when the wine server brings it? So today we're here at Il Sorriso restaurant in Irvington, New York, this beautiful Italian restaurant, to talk about ordering wine and to help you take some of the stress out of ordering wine off of a wine list. So I've already been seated and I've been presented with the wine list, which is a fairly extensive wine list. This wine list is organized by country. We have the Italian wines and we have some California wines. And today I've decided to choose a red wine. So if you know nothing about wine, what you have to decide, one of the things you do have to decide is whether you want red or white. Say I'm a customer and I don't know anything about the wine. What I do know inside my head is how much I want to spend for the wine, what I'm comfortable spending. So not knowing anything about the wines, what I'm going to do, and this wine list is nice, it's organized by price, the prices are here. I'll look for a price that I'm comfortable with. So I'm looking through, and I see something, I see quite a few that I would be comfortable picking. So I'm going to call the waiter over, and most of the waiters in restaurants are very knowledgeable about the wines, and they will be able to help you. Most waiters are trained and have experience with the wines in their restaurant. What do you think of this one?
Very good.
Okay, so at this point I've indicated to the server what my price range is, what I'm comfortable with, and he said that this is a very good wine. So we'll choose that. He can also make alternate suggestions, but by pointing to the price that you're comfortable with, you don't have to announce to your guests how much you're going to spend, and you've given the waiter some knowledge of where he can go with his alternate suggestions. Okay. Once your waiter has brought you the bottle of wine, what you want to do is check the label and check the vintage to make sure it's the right wine that you ordered and the right vintage. The next step of this sometimes gives people a little bit of anxiety because they often wonder, what do I do with the cork once the waiter presents the cork? Okay, it's not necessary to do anything with the cork. A lot of people like to smell the cork, but you really won't get any indication of the condition of the wine from the cork. Mostly what you'll smell is just cork. The other thing you can do with the cork is to check it for moistness. And if the end of the cork is moist, you'll know that the bottle has been stored properly on its side. And so here we have our cork. And we'll see. Okay. Now it's not necessary to do anything with the cork. You can just leave it sitting there. Okay. I happen to like to just pick up the cork. This cork is moist on the end, so we know that this bottle has been stored properly on its side so that the wine is up against the cork, preventing air from coming in. Okay, and now the waiter will pour about an ounce of wine into your glass. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at the color. You're looking for two things because remember, you're checking the condition of the wine. You're not checking to see whether you like the wine or not. You're just checking the condition of the wine to make sure it's good. So you'll want to check for things like whether or not the wine is oxidized or past its prime. So for that, you're going to look for the color. If the color is brown on a red wine, you'll know that it's starting to be oxidized. This color happens to be a beautiful red color, and this is a vintage from 2000, so I can tell that the edges are a little lighter. As red wine gets older, it actually becomes a little lighter. Now the other thing you're checking for when you're checking a wine's condition is something called corkiness. And when a cork is cleaned after it's taken from the bark of a tree, they pass through a chlorine solution, and sometimes a little bit of that solution is left on the cork. And what happens when it's put into the bottle, it forms a compound called TCA, which can make your wine smell musty, like a damp basement. or like wet cardboard. So when your waiter presents you with the glass of wine, you're going to be checking for these things. So what you're going to do first is you check the color. This is a beautiful ruby red color here. It's clear. The wine is clear. It's not cloudy. And we're going to swirl a little bit so that the aromas come up in the glass. And you're going to sniff. And what you should be smelling is fruit. You shouldn't smell anything damp or musty, no musty flavoring. So what we're smelling is good fruit. And then take a sip. Very nice. Your waiter will pour wine for your guests, usually serving the female guest first, then the gentleman, and then the host or hostess last. Also, what you want to check with the waiter here is sometimes you may want, if you're having white wine, you may want to have that in an ice bath, and you can ask for that. Some people actually like their red wine put in a little bit of an ice bath also. The other thing is some wines need to be decanted, and your waiter will usually be knowledgeable of that. Some wines just need a little time mixing with some oxygen to mellow out. So that can also happen at the table too. But here we have this wonderful wine, and I'd like to just say thank you to Will, the owner of Il Sorriso, and this is your wine hostess saying cheers, bringing you great wine for everyday living. Cheers.